Like, what are
Cut
you
that on the
vaping? Is
cigarettes.
what I'm asking.
We're live, folks. We're killing it with the professionalism
That's how.
here.
What an intro! What an intro! We're
It was
asking what.
pretty great.
What is that? Welcome to another episode of What is Adam Vaping?
What? Welcome to another. There you go. Did you hear that?
Oh God.
Tobacco.
Yeah,
That's
the
great.
echo.
Okay, yeah, we're up and running. Welcome to a live
It's happening.
episode of Just One Song. Another one. This time it was successful, and the other one didn't load. Because why would it? Why would anything work? I'm just kidding. It's working.
Technology.
Tonight we have. Was that Leo? I can't hear you. Could you turn
I
yourself
think it
up
was.
some-
It was Leo. Yeah. That's it. That's as loud as it goes. I need
Really?
to get up in this. How's that? Yeah.
That's perfect.
That's better.
Yeah, I must sound a
Okay,
little
Get
bit
all
I'm just
those
gonna
guys.
talk directly into it.
We're getting there. How about
We have a
Pop
great
filter.
night. We have
Dr.
music,
Jessie
pop filter. We have a
Vallejo
wonderful evening.
from Cal Poly Pomona. She is the instructor, one of the esteemed music professors. All of my peers from Cal Poly Pomona hold her in great esteem. I have yet to meet someone who has not enjoyed any of your classes. And I think Leo, Adam, and I think our first year there was your first year there.
Yeah.
So we're part of your inaugural class.
Yeah. I feel like we were the Breakfast Club, which was my favorite. So,
It was early enough.
It was.
8 a.m.
A nice-
And I'm not an early person. So
No, there's not much you can learn out of one bloodshot eye. Just
I
having
tried to make it fun. So we all enjoyed 8 a.m. together. So
we did Had a nice cold
were
glass
miserable
of
together.
kumis.
Mm.
We had an
That was my
opportunity
first,
to make that happen.
yeah.
To make kumis.
Yeah, I mean, we
made
went
you
to a
kumis.
horse. We went to the horse school.
Oh yeah,
Which
and they did
brewery?
have like a brewery and fermented. Yeah, but they're brewing for like the brew bros. They're not brewing the good stuff.
Not for research.
You know, not for
Uh,
research purposes.
Should have been.
That was my first college experience outside. Well, apart from community college, like that was my very first time in like a university, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is 8 a.m. This is how it is. But it was a great class, great professor, and eye opening. And we're glad to have you here, Dr.
Yeah,
V.
Thank you so much for being available. So you just got back from Texas. What city were you in?
I was in Dallas.
Okay. And you saw the eclipse?
Oh, I did. I made sure I did. So
That's awesome. What was that the only reason you were in Texas for? I ended
Yes.
that on the preposition.
that's okay. I feel like colloquially, when we're speaking, that's common. But if you write it in your paper, then I would judge you.
As you should.
So yeah. So I was trying to figure out where I would go for the eclipse because it also passed through my hometown in Syracuse, and when I was invited to Southern Methodist University to give some talks there, they gave me some choices for dates. So I figured Dallas sometimes probably is not as gloomy as Syracuse, so I decided to go to Dallas at that time, and then I'll go home to see my family in a couple weeks in New York. So yeah, it was great.
What were you talking about at Southern Methodist University?
Yeah, I gave a few guest lectures. I talked about like approaches to teaching mariachi for pedagogy students. They have a really great music ed program at SMU. So a couple of their classes, their choral methods class, and then their like second year or like sophomore music ed students who are just going out to like observe classes and things, wanting to know more about, well, how could you teach mariachi? How are we teaching mariachi? And then I also gave a talk for a Latin American music seminar, and then their equivalent of World of Music. So it was a
Wow.
busy 2 days.
That's awesome. You're
Is
making
there a lot?
Please, Leo. You have a question. I had a comment.
Oh no,
Go, Leo. Please.
my question was just on like that. I feel like you're on the cutting edge of like this as being like collegiate study. Like, do you see that? Do you find that, like, is that a cat? I thought that was your arm. There was a we have the cameras on, folks. So oh my god.
They can see my glasses.
It was just a cat,
Yeah,
but it looked
that's
like
a cat.
and Adam made sure that to let us know that it was a Vietnamese cat too, because that's where you got the cat.
Yep. Adopted
Yeah.
her.
Oh.
Oh, that's great. Pet adoption. We need to get a pet adoption plug.
Yes.
Anyway,
See how we stay on topic so easily?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I have an adopted
3 hosts.
pit bull boxer mix, and she's wonderful. So yeah. But yeah, so cutting edge of mariachi in colleges, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there have been people who've been experimenting with it for, a number of years, and in some cases, at least a couple decades in terms of like Texas. Like Texas is its own thing with music education, right? And then I'm trying to figure out how we can make it work at like a teaching oriented school that's not very competition oriented. So I feel like in some ways that gives me some freedom, even though I don't have the pipeline or kind of like a program that where you have a team of teachers and like a way to kind of like an established way of recruiting people like bands do and Dr. Badua has, right? I feel like even though I don't have that structure, I have the freedom to kind of reimagine what I would do, right? And so that's what I've been doing in planning, studio lessons and juries and levels for somebody who comes in like with more mariachi experience than anything else.
When did you begin?
Is there more money in competition schools? Oh my god.
Leo, please. Your question is more relevant. Mine was not a subject changer, but it not on purpose. Leo, please.
Well, I would. You mentioned competition schools, and I was just thinking of was that show where we just watched a show about like cheerleading schools. Like they get so much money for like competing. Not that like music competitions, but maybe there is. Is there more money? And
I mean, there is, but there's also so much more pressure. You basically are working within a sports model, and and I love sports, so I'm not the type of person to sit there and say, oh, sports don't belong in education. Like I loved playing, sports and being in athletics, but I think that there's a way that, I wouldn't want my job hinging on if I win enough competitions or place first at whatever state competition. So I'm really glad I can just kind of have it a little bit more relaxed in terms of job security, and then I can focus on teaching the music the way I'd like to, working on skills that might take a little bit longer to develop. So there would be more money and more fame and all sorts of things involved, but there'd also be a lot more pressure that I'm really happy not to have. So.
It seems very non-sustaining too, and like the amount of the meritocracy around competitiveness and music, it's ironic to me because like I got into music because it didn't seem like a meritocracy, and like any kind of art form. So like the competitive nature of it, nothing wrong with it, totally fine if you're in a competitive marching band, whatever. But it's cool that you don't have that added pressure of like it just seems not sustainable. Like. It feels like most people have a stroke when they're like 50 because it's a lot.
I'm not sure if I've heard of any mariachi teachers having that, but I know it's a grind. It's definitely a lot of things happening. So,
Would you ever think about bringing it mariachi more into the modern scene? Sorry about that, Kurt.
No, Adam, please, you go.
Well,
The theme of the
since I live
show.
in Vietnam, I get to meet a lot of people from all over the world, and I've been meeting a lot more like Mexican, like the AFA locals, and they really seem to be taking mariachi music and kind of liking to mix it in with the EDM more. Do you think you could bring
Lost you, Adam.
fusion of that kind of stuff, or oh shoot?
No, you're good. You're back.
Do you think you guys more shows or right?
Yeah.
More shows and stuff or your concerts with kind of melding things together because that's kind of how music has been in the past, right?
Yeah, so I would say for fusion, let's see. When I play mariachi music, I feel like it mariachifies anything, right? Like I've played Edelweiss for Schwarzenegger when I played at his home, or I play Bad Moon Rising or something like that, right? So I think that mariachi lends itself to sort of blend in with other genres. When I teach it, I try to make sure I teach, this is what mariachi is, but at the same time that we're a school group where we have a lot of room for creativity, right? And so we did that collaboration with Julian Saporiti, or he has his doctorate in ethnomusicology too, and his partner Amelia Halverson, and so we released it on Smithsonian Folkways. So that was it was like a country rock ballad, fusion of all sorts of things. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, I saw the Yamaha article mentioned it, which we need really quick. Dr. Vallejo was you were one of the top 40 educators for 2024.
Top 40
under 40, baby.
40 under 40. Awesome. And they mentioned that they brought that up too. It was called the best goddamn band in Wyoming.
Yeah.
Can you talk more about that project? I'll read what it said, which I guess is a quote from you, if I can read my own handwriting. Tied together some of the overlapping experiences of Asian, Mexican, and Central American music in the Pomona area.
Chino Latinos? You say Asian Mexican?
Well, kind of. So
that's me.
Right. Yeah. It's this project where it started with Dr. Saporiti's work. And so he released the album that it's on, 1975, and he released that music video. It's like one of the first singles. And it came out after I moved into Pomona. So right at like January 2020, I decided to move to Pomona, or December 2019. I decided to move to Pomona. I was sick of the commutes. I really like downtown Pomona. Like I know, it has it's rough around the edges in some ways, but I like my neighbors. I like the community. I like that it's artsy. I like that it's like a city that can, and we all hope it can. And so I moved here, and I was walking around town listening to that album, early on in the pandemic. So this came out in 2021. And so I couldn't stop listening to that song. And I noticed that in the first verse was a mention of Pomona. And because it was about the Fairplex and when it used to be an assembly center. And so, I was going through all sorts of, feelings, I guess, as we all were during the pandemic, and reflecting on life and our life decisions, and, what could we do to survive or help others during the pandemic. And also at the same time, I was performing at the Fairplex for children, migrant children who were stuck at the border, separated from their families, and then were put into essentially an assembly center again 80 years later, to be reunited with their families, at least. So at least it wasn't as traumatic at the Fairplex. What they went through was probably really awful. So really emotional time. And I think I reflected a lot on music and what it meant to me, and like, should I have studied medicine instead? I almost went to be a scientist. And I reached out to Julian after a while, because I was like, man, I can't stop listening to your song. There's so many overlaps with history, with different ethnic groups, and our experiences in Los Angeles and the Pomona area. Like, can I cover this for the mariachi? Because it works so well as a corrido or like a ranchera, type of thing. So he was totally fine with me. He gave me the blessing to like record a song. And then Dr. Mary Danico she was in sociology, but she just moved to Hawaii, and she supported having him come and give a residency and work with the students. And so then we made the recording for the Smithsonian. So it was like 2 years in the making for my involvement in it, and just an absolutely fun project that, made me cry sometimes, made me like feel really joyful sometimes. I met new friends out of it, and I hope the students had a really valuable experience recording and meeting him and learning from his work. So yeah,
the journey of that is wild too. And can you talk a little bit more? So you actually did you perform at these assemblies where kids were separated from their families?
Yeah, so I performed. The mayor of Pomona, Tim Sandoval, had asked me if I could help get him like a mariachi group together to go perform for the kids, and so he did a bunch of things to help support what there were so many people involved in that center, or it was an emergency intake center, technically speaking. So he helped set up like haircuts, and then he wanted entertainment. So we went and played for them for like lunch. And then later the Daw Center with Margaret Eichel, she also helped coordinate some of the performances. So I performed for them 3 times. Every 2 weeks you had like new kids coming in. Usually it took about 2 weeks for them to get placed with their families or an extended relative. And yeah, it was pretty emotional. You'd see like a bunch of teenagers who are just trying to have fun and, probably were enjoying not processing what they were going through yet, and just like being around other teenagers. And then you saw a lot of like their younger siblings who were with them who would like cry, and they had no idea what was going on. When we played for them, it was fun in the sense that they all wanted to be serenaded for their birthday, that type of thing. Like, oh, give me attention, like, and then play like Los Angeles Azules. They love, all the cumbias that were big on the radio around that time. And then, but yeah, I saw a lot of like the little kids just crying, that they probably were so overwhelmed with emotions every day. So, yeah, I've been really like thankful that I witnessed that, because I know so few people get to see what goes on in those situations,
And being able to listen to this, because that's part of the story of like recording a song. Like people just hear the 3 minutes or 4 minutes of the actual recording, but like that's all part of like the baggage that you brought into that. Not baggage, but like it's part of the context of how that song was created.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's poignant and important, but you can't like, I guess you being able to discuss how that journey to it being recorded, it means so much more. So like, listeners that are listening to this podcast, or me when I listen to that recording, and even for you, that must stir up the same emotions you had when you were there.
Yeah, for sure. I cry a lot more easily these days after the pandemic from all of those moments, but yeah, it was so great. And I think like, Julian and I have similar stories of being like mixed heritage, and growing up in like small town America. But I grew up in the North. He grew up in, Nashville, like South basically. And, we have so many similarities, but grew up in such different contexts. He's Vietnamese, Italian American, I'm Mexican, Italian American. So we had a lot of fun, and we both are like diehard OG Weezer fans. So we really bonded on that trip, and poor Adrian and Amelia had to hear us like sit in the car and talk about Weezer the whole time, and they just
time well
as
spent.
One should.
Time well spent.
Yeah. That's a band that lends itself really well to corridos and mariachi. I feel like you can do a great Buddy Holly with a mariachi band.
Yeah, apparently I just need to do the whole Blue album and
yeah.
go on tour.
Ooh,
that's what you should do on your sabbatical.
Yeah,
yeah. Record the entire. That would be gnarly. You were talking about how so much music lends itself to mariachi and corridos. They're really popular on like Instagram and TikTok. They're called the Easy Band.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes. I
Yes.
love them.
Yeah, they're great. But
They're
like every
awesome.
time he'll do a cover, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you can do. And then it just reminds me, it was like, oh, music, like you can play this with in uh, any style, really. But yeah, it's fascinating to see how like other people are able to like put it in a completely different genre.
Yeah.
Oh, that was my chair. That wasn't me, I swear. Oh,
I didn't hear
probably
anything.
can't pick it up. Okay, perfect. I shouldn't have said anything. I see. I
You
made
just
it
told
awkward.
on yourself. That's all you did. Give me a second. So Adam is like not recording. He's bugging out. So I need to stop the recording real quick. If that's,
Okay.
are you guys okay with that?
Sure.
It's not like we're not like killing it on the stream anyway, which is fine because we get all our views on the back end, and it's Friday night.
Yeah.
I'm being honest. We're the responsible adults not going out and doing things on Friday night. Adam,
I'm
it's
in my 30s.
Saturday morning for Adam.
That's only
Yeah.
some Fridays for me. Some Fridays I'm out there playing gigs and doing things, and
That's right. We were lucky that you didn't have a gig today.
yeah, last Friday I did, and then I'm pretty sure I got food poisoning from it, so that was great.
Oh, I'm
So,
What did you
don't get
eat?
norovirus.
What was it?
I'm thinking it may have been some type of sushi, but I'm not sure. Which I usually don't get sick from sushi, so who knows? But I'm pretty sure it was norovirus. Don't get that. That was top 4 sick moments of my life. So
oof.
No on Noro. Got it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not fun. It's always, I hate when you like you attribute a sickness to a food that you really love. I was just talking about, like, I think it was like there's a fried chicken place over by us that my neighbor, he's like, I can't eat their mac and cheese anymore. They have great mac and cheese. Every time I smell